hate to break it to you, but we're all getting older, and the data is pretty impressive.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, I was sitting with a businessman this morning, one of my fine radio advertisers, who's 70 years of age and is still working he says he works half days, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I thought, well, 70 is the new, I don't know, but when you better start thinking that way, because when you see some of the data about how we're aging, it's well, it's provocative. And the Director of Elderly Affairs and former Lieutenant Governor Charlie Fogarty is here to talk about some of the trends and also some of these controversies going on with getting people around on RIPTA, Meals on Wheels programs that could be cut, all of that. So lots to do tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go to the rundown and check on what's happening real quick. This is interesting. Headlines here out of Pawtucket, Providence Journal front page here. Publicly owned park on the table. That's all you got to do is put that kind of headline up, and people start to chirp about things they don't want to spend money on. But it was a positive vibe in Pawtucket yesterday.
Big changes are on the way for the city of Pawtucket.
This is a great old city. It's wonderful to see it come back to life, and we're excited about it.
Today is really about the revitalization of downtown and potentially of the PawSox being a tool, if you will, or a piece of the puzzle that's been going on for many years.
At a business forum Monday morning, Pawtucket Mayor Donald Gribian discussed the city's vision for downtown development, which includes a Pawtucket Central Falls commuter rail station, 3 standalone breweries, and 2 new possible locations for the PawSox Stadium.
We're certainly delighted to have the PawSox stay here at home, as Larry Lucchino said, but do what we can to support them and to, really build up this city as I said, an epic destination in New England. And I think all the pieces are there.
And business owners are already taking notice.
Any project I want to do, I try to do it in Pawtucket.
Scott Davis, a local business owner who is at this morning's meeting, tells me he's excited to start developing here, planning to turn this old mill into luxury apartments and commercial space by next year.
It'll house 16 or 17 residential units and 2 or 3 commercial units. There'll probably be a cafe in the front, parking right outside the door, private entrances. So it'll be an upscale project and should attract the kind of residents that we're hoping to attract in Pawtucket.
Look, the city of Pawtucket's on the come. It absolutely is. There's no denying that. It'll be sticky to have a public park that is primarily publicly financed. There's a lot of public in that. Devil's in the details. Keep an open mind. Keeping the PawSox here, quality of life issue for the state, no doubt. But the Red Sox organization and its sub-organization are chock full of dough, and they can't get away with the state or the city combining to do this thing all by ourselves. Well, stay tuned on that. All right, next item. This is a grind. It really is, and the Democrats are just digging in. They vow to filibuster. By the time you're seeing this, the Republicans may have pulled the trigger on what's known as the nuclear option. We have that headline as well. Some of the liabilities are being recording the show in the early afternoon, but here's a summation, at least at press time, as to what was going on.
Democrats are ready to filibuster. They point to the Republicans' refusal to even consider President Obama's nominee, Merrick Garland, last year as a reason for the standoff.
We are still very angry over what happened to Judge Garland.
It takes 60 votes to stop a filibuster and end debate on a nomination. With 52 votes in the Senate, Republicans need 8 Democrats to break ranks. So far, they have persuaded only 4.
But Republicans are determined to see Neil Gorsuch seated on the highest court. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has indicated he may change Senate rules to make that happen.
If the so-called nuclear option is employed, it would take only a simple majority, 51 votes, to push the nomination through. The rule would also apply to future nominees.
If we have to, we will change the rules, and it looks like we're going to have to.
The Majority Leader has promised to use whatever tactic is necessary to get his way, even if that means forever damaging the United States Senate.
The Senate is scheduled to vote on Friday.
You know, Senator Leahy is suggesting that it's a forever damage move. The new president, despite whatever consternation you have about him, and I have plenty, gets his nominee. It is a momentum-neutral replacement for Justice Scalia. It's the way it goes. The Democrats are all in on stopping this. I just think fuels the notion in America today that nobody can get anything done in Washington. And they're going to pull the nuclear option, meaning it'll be a quick majority vote and he'll be confirmed. And I think that's too bad. It's bad momentum for him going out of the court. Unmasking Susan Rice, I don't know. She's the former NSA advisor, National Security Advisor. She reportedly saw some things that she wanted more clarification on. And of course, Sean Spicer et al., they jump all over this.
There is a troubling direction that some of this is going in.
CBS News has confirmed Susan Rice, President Obama's national security advisor, asked for names of the Trump team to be revealed after seeing them referenced in intelligence briefs. U.S. civilian identities are normally concealed.
If some transition member was surveilled after the election and unfairly unmasked, I want to get to the bottom of that.
Rice had the authority to request the names be unmasked, but sources deny she wanted the names distributed throughout the intelligence community, as the Trump administration claims.
You know, Susan Rice had a bad episode on Sunday television back when, right, on the whole Libyan situation. Yet she showed up on MSNBC today. I watched her answering Andrea's questions about, you know, what she wanted to do with that process. And it doesn't seem to me to have nearly the kind of uh-oh factor that the entire complexity of Russian intervention into our elections brings. But it's something for the Trump people to hang their hat on here, no doubt, to say, hey, by the way, look over here. I don't think it'll end up being much more. We'll see. All right, listen, subject line today, elderly affairs. Now, I mean, that's one way to have the whole audience just tune out, right? You want to talk about old people? Until you say, you know what, I'm almost there. Headline here that really got our attention a couple of weeks ago, I think is just horrendous, that RIPTA has made the decisions they have financially on the buses, and then, you know, we've got headlines like this where the elderly and services are in the Trump cut pipeline. Charlie Fogarty is our Director of Elderly Affairs. He is the former Lieutenant Governor. He ran labor and training. Is there anything you haven't done over there at the on Smith Street?
I never get to be governor. I fell a little short.
No, I know that. You still got an itch?
No.
No?
No.
Swear?
Absolutely.
Well, I've always enjoyed your company, and your expertise in government is no doubt very high level. Let's save the RIPTA thing for our next segment. In general, we're all getting older. In general, it looks like we've got a momentum coming out of Washington that's not real good down the pipeline. What's your take?
Yeah, it's troubling. We are funded in our state, our department, primarily through federal dollars. About 67% of our budget is federal dollars through the Agency for Community Living, which is part of the Health and Human Services budget, which is under Trump looking at about a 17-18% reduction. So even while our population is increasing, and in Rhode Island it's increasing significantly for those people 60 and over, the dollar amount we can expect, I think at best, is level funding, and perhaps at worst, some significant cuts. So we're going to really have to pay attention, because as our population gets older, we need to have those services available to keep people independent.
We've got some data, you know, Kev, I think I'm throwing this at you early, but we have some graphics that we can pop up just to take a quick look-see on how old we are getting. And I know that you put these things together on a regular basis there, Mr. Director. In general, the trend to 2040 is like something along the line of 60% growth in elderly status, right?
Which, Dan, in one way,
I don't think I'm going to be here in 2040. I don't know if you're going to be here in 2040.
So. I mean, that's not that far away.
Well,
but
when is that?
You're younger
2040.
than I am.
Well, yeah, I might. Who knows? Live for today, baby.
Dan, that's
you know,
good. That's the good
pretty
news.
Morbid, huh, Lex? I don't know, but
You'll both be here.
The good news is that we're all living older.
Yes.
So, the challenge, though, is that as we live older, some of us may need some help and services to stay in the community. So that's where we come in.
Well, you know, it really is. It's a hard rub, man. I hate to see it when you know, your parents and grandparents start to lose their capability of financially supporting themselves. But, you know, physicality comes into play. Your health is always something that becomes more expensive. Is there a new formula that we should be looking at in terms of being prepared for what's the time period? The post 65 years?
Yeah, a couple of things. Absolutely. Number one, a concern that we have as a division is that people are not properly prepared for retirement in terms of their income, especially in light of the last recession. You know, that impacted 401ks and IRAs and so forth. And we have a generation of seniors who may be less well off than their predecessors would be, even with Social Security. So it's obviously important for people to look at their financial stability going forward. Secondly, while baby boomers are aging and are going to have a big impact on the population, they're a different kind of population. They're much more independent. They're much more desirous of making choices, not a take it or leave it attitude. They're going to tend to be healthier. So in the beginning anyway, they're not going to need as many services, but what they're going to be looking for are things that are different from what we have now. And in many respects, the model of service that we have, not just in Rhode Island, but throughout the country, was one from the 70s and 80s. You know, feed people at a meal site, have a senior center and so forth. Those are still important for segments, but when you have a population that doesn't consider themselves old, you know, you have to look at enrichment activities, maybe getting them to volunteer and so forth, and then providing those alternate services they need, like home care, maybe adult day services once in a while for folks, so they can live out pretty much most of their life in their homes. It's better for them, and for you and I as taxpayers, it's much less expensive.
There are some acute issues, though. Cuts to Meals on Wheels that might be coming as part of this whole Trumpian philosophy. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. But when we come back, we'll talk about what's happening with RIPTA. In the meantime, I just want to let you know that if you're thinking, am I coming over here, Kev? I think I am. If you're thinking about sophisticating your entire banking program, sophisticating a verb? Let's put it this way. Navigant Credit Union's got a card valet program, and you will love it. It simplifies your banking. It's very high-tech. There's nothing that your smartphone won't be able to tell you about your banking life when you get the card valet app from Navigant Credit Union. Check it out. We'll be right back. Welcome back in. So this RIPTA bus thing is problematic. You know, RIPTA, trying to balance its budget, decided that it would yank the free ride for the seniors and the disabled who fit a particular formula. Here's what happened.
Raimondo and the state senate, this is a small amount of money to support your most vulnerable people in this state.
Anger and frustration at a rally to save free bus passes.
I expect this from a Trump administration, not from a Democratic Raimondo administration.
Demonstrators at Burnside Park in Providence protesting RIPTA's decision to start charging people in the reduced fare program 50 cents per trip and 25 cents for transfers.
This is an abomination. Extreme hardship on me and all you people.
One person held a sign saying, "Stop the war on the visibly poor."
It's horrible. I have visits with my children, and I rely on the bus to get there. I rely on the bus to get to my groceries. I rely on the bus to get to all of my appointments.
Two agencies are now trying to reduce the impact of the policy. The Rhode Island Division of Elderly Affairs and the Office of Veterans Affairs will offer free 10-trip fare cards to qualifying seniors and veterans.
I'm not senior. I'm just disabled. I think it's unfair that the disabled have to go and pay 50 cents.
So this is interesting. What I didn't know is, until you told me last week on the radio, is that you do have a card that the seniors can buy. It's $5 worth of, you know, this seems like chump change to most of us, but it's not. When the thing that caused me to be upset about this is not necessarily that particular protest, but when the Providence Journal put out this story a couple of Sundays ago about, you know, soup kitchens and elderly services that were visibly decreased in population, meaning the elderly that were getting free bus rides weren't getting on the bus at 50 cents a pop. That's a problem.
Yeah, there's two aspects. I think, Dan, I mentioned on your show last week that we, when I first became director, one of the things we had to do for our federal grant was to do our quadrennial report to the feds. We had to develop a plan for the next 4 years and have that approved. And one of the things we did was hold a series of public hearings and focus groups with seniors around the state to look at what their priorities, what they thought was important. And the number one issue was transportation, for two reasons. Number one, obviously for the fact that getting around to do the things in life that we need to do, the supermarket, the doctors, whatever, the senior center, but also the socialization part. just being able to go out and do things that most of us want to do. You know, no one wants to be cooped up at home all day and just be able to go out for certain things. So we saw that that was an important piece in there. So certainly, you know, as we move down the road, we need to focus greater attention on this, and obviously the RIPTA changes have made a big impact. Now the governor has stepped forward and at least tried to put something in place in the interim with the PASS program that we have, finding money this year in the budget, and also putting money in our budget next year, $300,000. You also have several legislators, Senator Crowley from Central Falls and Representative Laughlin from Pawtucket, that are looking at restoring the full amount. And I would remind you again, this was not a governor's proposal. The governor's, RIPTA came in and put an amendment into the governor's first budget, which accomplished this. The governor then asked them to reduce the original fare from 50 cents to $1, asked them to delay for a year, and has come up with these dollars. But it's certainly creating a hardship for folks, and this program can help, but it doesn't certainly replace all that was there.
Yeah, I mean, we're not doing a forensic audit of RIPTA here, but and you're not running RIPTA, you're running Elderly Affairs. I'm glad that there's a little bit of stopgap here, but this is a political conversation that this state needs to have, and the question becomes, is the transit authority something that has to run in the black in lieu of providing the kinds of transportation basics that people who need it need? I mean, it's and look, call me some kind of wacko liberal. I've never been perceived that way, but I think I've never felt that there's certain agencies and certain things the state provides that can be lost leaders and don't necessarily have to, on their P&L, show it in the black. And so the legislators, maybe they're going to put the money back in, help the RIPTA budget, but I just think it's short-sighted, and it doesn't do well for the entire marketing of the RIPTA system, which, by the way, needs a morale boost when it comes to the constituents' feeling about it, don't you think?
Exactly. Now, in fairness to RIPTA, most of their dollars are federal dollars. They get some from the gas tax too, but they have, you know, if they don't get the dollars somewhere, they have to make it up through fares and so forth. So if you're then putting it on a smaller and smaller base, that creates a problem too. But certainly, as an advocate for seniors, I would argue that it's, you know, short-sighted, because the cost in the long run of having somebody that may not be able to get out, and what happens at that point? Maybe we have to put them in more intensive care, a nursing home or some other facility. Ultimately, that's not necessarily the best position for them to be in, but it also ends up costing you and I as taxpayers a lot more money. So I think you're right on that. We really have to look at that, and I'm hopeful this year that, you know, the governor started the conversation. She's put in a measure to provide some relief. She's put dollars in the budget. We have legislators who are now working, and hopefully we can see some further increase coming down the pike in 2018.
Right. Well, I hope so. I just think those who show the financial need on whatever the acceptable formula is, need to be able to get on the bus. You know, if they can't get to the pantry or they can't go to the doctor, for heaven's sake. But I think you're seeing that even the 50% fare, I mean, if they're not showing up, they're not paying it. So you're not. So you're not closing the budget if they're not paying the 50 cents.
Exactly.
Right?
There's no question on that, and you know, that was a point we would argue. But as you say, I run Elderly Affairs. I don't run RIPTA.
All right.
And I don't want.
You might someday. I'm telling you, you've done a lot, Charlie. There's always tomorrow. When we come back, the Meals on Wheels program is also in some jeopardy. We've got some data on that. Stay with us.
What we found was that over a decade, states that increased spending on their home delivered meals programs saw reductions in their population of low care residents in nursing homes.
Kylie Thomas from Brown University did quite the study on the Meals on Wheels program. And she is convinced, and her research, she says, shows that the expense for that program actually saves the state money. You agree?
Very familiar with that study. We received a copy of it and concur wholeheartedly. I think that it's one of the most cost-effective ways to keep people at home and independent, not only with a nutritious meal, but the visit, the personalization, having somebody come in that you can say, looking forward to seeing that person, doing a quick wellness check. And I think that's why one of the first things the governor did back in 2015 was nearly double the state contribution to Meals on Wheels, which was the first time in a long time that had happened.
We're trying to keep people out of nursing homes. We're trying to keep people out of the expense and the financial drain that those kinds of facilities bring to your own personal portfolio are incredible.
Right, exactly. And it's not just the financial, it's the quality of life issues. There are some people, quite frankly, Dan, who need to be in a nursing facility because they have so many issues that they can only be properly cared for there, and we're always going to need them. But for a majority of the people, they would like, as long as possible, to stay home and be in an environment they're comfortable with. So whether it's Meals on Wheels, whether it's programs like we offer a copay program for home care services or adult day services, we're able, for very little money, very little investments, to maintain those folks at home. Our copay program for home care, for instance, costs an average of $1,400 per client per year versus $9,000 a month for a nursing home if you go in there. So you can see the benefit financially, but even more important in the quality of life, which is our priority.
Well, I think the wellness conversation is important, you know, for those who are still healthy. Stay well, long term, you stay out of the expensive medical care thing. But even for the you know, elderly generation now, making sure there's a psychological health with a visit and a meal and all that kind of stuff, that companionship and all the kind of stuff that goes with it, keeps them in a place where they don't fold up and end up at 9 G's a month, you know, putting the state on the hook.
Older people have a lot to contribute still, and I think it behooves us to keep them involved as long as possible. And again, this younger generation is not going to just ask for that, they're going to insist on that. So I think the sooner we kind of rebalance our system.
Our structure is not prepared for the future,
No,
is it?
We're focused on the 70s and not the, you know, the 2000s. So we really need to take some steps. We're doing that. The governor has some initiatives in the budget called Healthy Aging. One of the states that we look to as a model, Minnesota, has really done a wonderful job working with all the partners in keeping people at home. They're kind of, and they did it. Took a 10-year commitment over time. It's not something that can be done overnight, but it involved working with the nursing home folks as well. But it has this system where you've got information out there ready and available to people, whether it's individuals or their families, policymakers. You have alternative options for people to do, and you have a focus on quality of life, independence, which ultimately is less costly in the long run.
All right, so penny wise and pound foolish are the themes. You're such a wonk, such a bureaucrat. You love this stuff, though. And
I do.
You do.
And as I get older, it's more important to
I know.
me, Dan. So.
Yeah, I know. Every time you talk about growing old, you start to smile a little bit more like,
Self-interest.
we're all in it. We're all getting there. It's good to see you, my friend.
You
All
too.
right, Charlie Fogarty, our Director of Elderly Affairs, says he's all done with the politics thing. I don't know. Could be running RIPTA. No, I'm not kidding. Final word and we come back. Stay with us. We were going to talk NCAA basketball. We lost our video. It happens. North Carolina. Kev, you happy with North Carolina?
No.
No.
Not at all.
I wanted to see Gonzaga win that whole thing.
Yep.
But it's a good run, no doubt. Coming up tomorrow, don't forget, 3 o'clock on WPRO, weekdays 3 till 6. And here tomorrow night, we'll have Rich Ehrenberg, a high-level thinker, Washington experience, to talk about the nuts and bolts. He's got a lot of Senate experience on his resume. To talk about the nuts and bolts of the battle for Judge Gorsuch, which, by the way, by the time you've seen this, might be resolved. By tomorrow, certainly it will be. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Good night.